Last year, I took a little break from the channel. When I came back, I asked you for some topics, some ideas, some story sort of prompts. At Brown 1989 came back with something really interesting. Very simple question. Is there anything actually wrong with the idea of collecting for clout, being motivated by the desire to impress others? That is a really interesting question, and one that I'm probably not going to do justice to, but I am going to talk about anyway. See me after the intro and we'll get into it. Hi, I'm Pete McConville, and I like to overthink, overanalyze, and just geek out on watches, asking philosophical, weird-asked, means-nothing, silly questions about this hobby of ours. And today what I want to do is address this question that at Brown 1989 asked about, is there anything actually wrong with collecting for clout, buying hype pieces, buying those pieces that largely, or at least in large part, to just show people that you were able to. And you know what? I don't think there is anything wrong with that. First off, we're humans, most of us, I'm guessing. The algorithm doesn't really, my analytics don't tell me if I have non-human watches, but so I'm going to assume you're all humans. I'm going to assume that very few of you are psychopaths. And as a result, almost all of you are going to care what other people think and think of you. That is, the definition of psychopathy is to not care what other people think. So I'm going to go with the fact that most of you aren't psycho nutbars, and most of you, to some extent, care about what people think. And since you're humans, and since you're probably not nutbars like Patrick Bateman, you will care how people see you, how people see your choices, and your watch purchases are choices. And so I think it's important to note that this is almost certainly going to be a factor in your decisions. Secondly, if you're here watching me now, especially if you feel the need to respond to me with a comment. But if you're on Instagram and you post pictures, even if you don't post, if you click the like button, if you ever leave a comment, that level of interaction, that level, particularly if you ever put anything out on your own, almost by definition means that you're seeking to engage in some sort of social activity, some sort of social exchange on this topic. You're almost certainly asking yourself or asking for some kind of response. And if you're in that place, it's hard to argue that you are totally immune from what people think. Because otherwise, what the hell are we doing here? Why are you watching me if you don't care? Why are you making a comment if you don't care? And why, like some hilarious commenters that I've dealt with, why are you yelling at me for 20 minutes in 15 comments that you don't care? And I have had that happen. It is absolutely mind-bendingly hilarious how much people care about telling people they don't care. It's, as I say, it is one of the funniest things that happens on YouTube. So like I said, if you're here, I'm going to assume you're human. I'm going to assume you're not a psychopath. I'm going to assume that you're interested in some level of social interaction with another person on the topic of watches, where you want to hear their opinion and you want to exchange yours. All of which tells me everyone here, to some extent, cares about other people's thoughts about them and their watches. So once you're in that space, it's no longer about pretending that you don't care. It's no longer pretending that you're alone on an island. It's now just about, for all of us, carefully judging how much we care and making sure that we don't go too far. Now, at this point, I can be very personal. I will put my hand up and say, yes, I collect for a kind of clout. That is part of my buying decision. The kind of clout I want is not some kind of look at me, look at what I was able to get, look at what line I was able to jump, look at what the size of bat I swing. For me, that clout is about sort of being seen as someone who does a little bit more research, who knows a little bit more, who finds something a little bit off the beaten track, who's a little bit away, separates himself from the herd, which is again really paradoxical. I like to be seen as separating myself from the herd, and in therefore doing so, I pay close attention to what the herd is doing and deliberately place myself to one side. I'll freely admit to doing that. And the reason why I freely admit to doing that to you is because I freely admit to doing that to me. I'm very open with myself about what is motivating me and how external influences like not being seen to run with the pack influence me. And because I'm open and honest about it, I'm able to then moderate that. I've described it before as being like a golfer that knows they've got a slice. If I know I've got a slice, I can then aim to make sure that the slice works for me, not against me. I find that people who clearly do care what people think, but then run around telling people how much they don't think, pretending to themselves that they don't think, they're like a golfer that's got a horrendous slice that denies that they've got a slice. So they'll aim straight down the fairway, straight for the pin, and be constantly surprised that they end up in the rough. So the question isn't so much, is there anything wrong with collecting for clout? I think the question is better phrased, do we need to be careful in how far we go? And to that extent, I think we do. I think if you find yourself getting to the point where you're purchasing watches that you personally don't like, that you're not that personally wrapped with, but the only redeeming feature is that other people ooh and ah over it, you've gone too far. It doesn't do much good to be buying, very expensive watches that you don't really like. And B, frankly, it probably indicates that you might have some other hole in your life that you need to get filled. And that maybe buying watches is not a great form of therapy for you. But on the other hand, if you love chronographs, you love steel chronographs, you think the Daytona's a fine looking watch, you know what? You kind of like other chronographs as well. But the thing that tips the Daytona over is you get to tell people you've got a Daytona. Go for your life. What's wrong with that? Be happy. You know what? I'll go even further. You don't have to be as open as I am with the world that, hey, part of the reason I bought this was to impress you, because that kind of defeats the purpose, I suspect. But I think if you're just honest with yourself, you're going to be able to tread that line of having a good collection, having watches that make you happy, and being able to get that clout in whatever form you want. So anyway, that's my take on collecting for clout. I don't really have a problem with it. What about you? Are you going to firmly deny? You're going to yell at me and make it absolutely clear and be very sure that I understand that you don't care what I think about in the comments? If you do that, I promise I won't pick on you, but I won't promise not to laugh at you behind your back. Anyway, leave comments, all that sort of stuff below. I've been Pete McConville. This is what I do. See you later. Bye.